Sam is one of the least used brawlers in the game today, barely seeing use in any type of play, from the bottom of the barrel all the way to pro play. His steep learning curve and skillful but not flashy play, as well as his outclassing in the current meta, have combined all to make Sam the 6th least played brawler in the game. I want to specify that this video does not intend to insult your main or whoever you play unless your main is Edgar. This video simply serves as an explanation as to why a few brawlers are not played, and who knows, it might sway a few people to your main side. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on the video. 80% of you are not subscribed, so if you watch my videos and aren't subscribed, you really should rectify that fact, and whatever else YouTubers say to make people subscribe. Join our Discord server as well, and let's get into the video. As I said in the intro, Sam is one of the least played brawlers currently, and is in fact the 6th least played brawler, with 2 of the brawlers that are lower than him being ones I covered earlier in this series, which by the way, you should definitely check out. Alright, I'm sorry, I've probably plugged enough stuff for the next century, but anyway, let's get into his character design and see if we can figure out anything from there. Sam is an Australian older male who was revealed to be married to another old person in Bell. Sam was formerly a factory worker at what was likely Star Park, but he gave that life up for a life of crime with the Gold Arm Gang with Bell and Pearl. Most interestingly, he hates all robots, or that's what it used to be, as Brawl Stars removed the text about Sam hating robots after Pearl's release. As you can see from his description, there really isn't too much to him. He's just a regular guy, albeit very muscular. His relevance to the Star Park story is murky at best, as he could be a former Star Park worker, but that isn't explicitly revealed as to my knowledge. His heists also aren't explicitly for or against Star Park, and are mostly targeted against other brawlers. But overall, unlike someone like Leon, Griff, or RT, he has basically no story relevance, though his backstory has a lot of untapped potential in my opinion. And just being a regular person in a game like Brawl Stars will basically never work in your favor, unless you were released in the very early days of Brawl Stars like Cole and Dynamite. Keep in mind, Brawl Stars is played mostly by children, who want to escape their regular lives when playing the game. So why choose an old British guy when you can choose a narcissistic undead vampire, an edgy teenager with a sentient scarf, or a gang boss that's also a literal crow? Yeah, there's basically no reason to. Overall, Sam's design helps literally 0% with his play rates, and even could hurt him. His design isn't really appealing to the main player base of Brawl outside of a few people. This means that his players have to come from one of 3 other locations: release conditions, playstyle, and gameplay, and his current place in the meta. First of all, let's talk about his release. Sam was released in September of 2022. This was a very turbulent time for Brawl Stars, and they were truly struggling. As you can see from this graph, Brawl Stars was nearly at their minimum level of popularity of all time. Let that sink in. Other than a few times in the middle of the 2023 summer, this was Brawl Stars' worst times in terms of popularity, and this was the time Sam was released. Sam was a Brawl Pass brawler, so a very small amount of people would have unlocked him and his Caesar Sam skin during that season, putting him at a large disadvantage to other brawlers who were released during more popular seasons, therefore getting more plays. And even not considering the Brawl Pass, the overall player pool was much lower then, so the amount of people being hyped for him, playing him, and maining him was bound to be much lower than other brawlers from other seasons. As I remarked upon in my video on Ashe, animations are another factor to be considered when discussing why brawlers aren't played often. It may not be the biggest reason, but it's not impossible to derive a conclusion about the popularity of a brawler from their animation. Unlike Ashe, Sam was prominently featured in his animation, which does work to his favor. However, his animation got just 5 million views. Yes, just 5 million views. But keep in mind, we're comparing this to other animations for brawlers, not in general. The animation views are extremely variable, but I think we can establish an average of around 10 to 15 million views for each one. And Sam is far from this total, showing that the hype and interest around the brawler, and Brawl Stars as a whole at the time, was pretty low. To make matters worse for Sam, he was a chromatic brawler. I talked a little about this in my Ashe video. These two are really similar if you think about it, to be honest. But anyway, I'm definitely going to be making a video on chromatics. But for now, let's go over the basics. Unlike now, these brawlers were locked behind either the Brawl Pass or Legendary Rarity for an entire season. This drastically reduced the number of players that could play Sam, and when Sam was finally released to the public, he still wasn't easy to get at a mythic rarity, and many people would have moved on from his hype to the next new brawler. Now let's move on to his gameplay and playstyle and see what we can find out about Sam from there. First of all, let's address his classification. Sam is classified as an assassin, which, to be honest, is a pretty misleading classification. Sure, he can have his assassin moments, but if Daryl isn't considered an assassin, why should Sam? His large health and his playstyle that I'm going to talk about is more in line with that of a tank. The assassin class is arguably the most popular class, so people will inevitably try out Sam seeing that he's an assassin, just to see that he isn't really played like a traditional assassin, so they just give him up after a game or two trying him out. If he was classified as a tank, however, players wouldn't be misled into thinking he's an assassin, and give him a chance keeping in mind that he's a tank, not an assassin. And finally, onto his gameplay. As I've said earlier, Sam doesn't neatly fit into one class or another. He's a blend of several classes, like an assassin or even a pseudo sniper at times, but he's mainly a tank. Most tanks have several key features. Obviously the large tank health, a relatively shorter range, and an approach tool. Of course, there are exceptions to each, but in general, these are the three of the key features of tanks. So does Sam have them? Well, he has a large health, a relatively short range with his regular attack, though he does have a long range with his super, and finally he has a somewhat weird approach tool in which whenever he uses super, he boosts his movement speed by 25% for 2.5 seconds. But how does he play in game? Well, he is one of the most skilled brawlers to play. It often takes a very large amount of games and trials and errors to properly learn how to play him and learn his interactions with other brawlers. This already is a bad sign, as many people are likely to not have the patience to truly learn and master the art of playing Sam. Sam starts with his super in every game, a unique mechanic never before seen. When he has his super, each of his attacks deal 1600 damage, with a 1.6 second reload speed. Sam's super sees him shoot his knuckle busters for 2900 damage, at an 8.67 tile range. This is where Sam's pseudo sniper role comes in, as the super's long range allows Sam to snipe brawlers and assassinate them. However, once Sam is without a super, his attack damage becomes a measly 800, with a smaller attack spread but a 0.9 second reload speed. With this, we can see that Sam is a very unique brawler, and will be covered more extensively in his PowerPoint, which will be not coming soon. However, you can see that Sam basically has two modes, a mode with his super and a mode without his super. But neither are very powerful and have a low range, so what's most important to him is actually the super itself. Sam with his super is where all of his threat is at. The damage the super deals as well as the range it has is a great combination for Sam to actually be able to compete against other enemies. However, it requires great skill to use well. If you use your super at max range on somebody and miss or even hit them, but they don't die, you're suddenly in a very dangerous situation. You'll have a short speed increase for a little, but in most situations that won't really make a difference. And unlike tanks like El Primo or Bull, who at least have the tank trait, the only way Sam can get his super back is by dealing damage to enemies, and he has a 3-tile radius. You can see the problem in this situation, right? It's extremely risky to use his super, and you have to know how to aim it properly. Often, you're gonna have to move up the map by using your super on walls, picking up the busters back up, and operating like that whenever you need to push up. Furthermore, you have to choose your matchups carefully. You can't take many risks with brawlers that out DPS you, and unlike his counterparts Frank, Daryl, and El Primo, Sam has no crowd control ability without his gadget, so he relies solely on damage, which is quite underwhelming for him. Overall, you get the point. Sam requires a lot of skill, patience, and practice to utilize his full potential. And let's be real, what 8-year-old kid wants to do all of that for one brawler? As I said in my Ash video, trade-off mechanics aren't the most popular, and Sam is basically one walking trade-off. Do you keep your super and dodge well, waiting for the perfect moment to use your super? Or do you use your super quickly for the speed boost and the chance of damaging the enemy at a range? To make matters worse for Sam, there's a huge element of risk when playing him. One super in the wrong direction, and suddenly the enemy can crowd around it and protect the busters from being picked up by you. And if they aren't able to be picked up by you, you're going to be literal deadweight, as Sam can do almost nothing without his knuckle busters. And you're gonna have to either let yourself get killed or hope for a miracle to get your knuckle busters back. Overall, Sam's gameplay is extremely skilled but also very risky. You have to learn a lot of tech with him in order to utilize him properly and get the most value out of him, and it takes a lot of games and learning to do that. His risk factor is also very high, as one mistake with Sam and you can be sent to the Shadow Realm, and I'm not talking about Cordelius and Lily's Shadow Realm. Even if you play mistake-free, it's still difficult to get kills on non-squishy brawlers, requiring you to be very careful about who you pick a fight with, and to smartly attack brawlers once you get into a fight with them. And these matchups get even worse when you consider Sam's current place in the meta. Sam is probably one of the weakest brawlers in the current meta. With the advent of damage inflation and hypercharges, Sam's already underwhelming damage output is getting overshadowed by brawler after brawler, sinking him in the meta. While Sam has a very high risk involved with playing him, other brawlers like Daryl don't even have that high risk, while encompassing the same role even better than Sam. So really, what's the point of playing Sam when you have someone like Daryl, who has better movement, damage, health, and basically everything else? And to make matters even worse for Sam, he doesn't have a hypercharge. Not having a hypercharge and not being a new brawler is already a recipe for disaster in this current meta, and will lead the brawler to be trash in this meta, and therefore mostly unused, as is the case with Sam. Overall, Sam has a lot of issues that all compound to make him such an unused brawler. From his release, to a steep learning curve, risky gameplay, and his bad plays in the current meta, you can see why nobody other than a select few really plays him. So how do we make him more played? From a design standpoint, utilizing him more in the Star Park story could help a bit, as he has an interesting backstory as someone who has worked in the Star Park factory. So he could be like a whistleblower or something, I don't know. From a gameplay standpoint, I personally think he should stay mostly the same. Some brawlers aren't meant for everyone, and Sam is so unique and interesting in his gameplay that even with his steep learning curve, it should stay the same. However, addressing his meta relevancy, he needs several buffs and a hypercharge. So let me know what you want to see from a Sam balance change in the comments below. A big thanks to Narcissus for not being a narcissist and helping me out with his favorite brawler. Anyway, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.